And the fatigue level and the excitement of your colleagues there is what?
Well, everyone, the soldiers particularly, you know, for a while they didn't realize how much attention was on them, how much of the world was focused on them during the previous days of the war. Now, when you walk through Saddam Hussein's palace, these soldiers know that they have made history, and they're aware of that. Their excitement is up, their morale is up. They are looking forward to getting this thing wrapped up. But a lot of them actually feel lucky to be here, to be participating in these kinds of events.
And of course, a lot of them are lucky to be alive. We've had some tough fights. Greg Kelly reporting live from Baghdad. Thank you, Greg.
Sure.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Automobile Magazine All-Star, 5 years in a row. Winner, $35,000 to $40,000 category.
And I only have 5 answers to their problems. Most of them are getting restive. That is to say, they're waiting for the 4th Infantry Division to arrive from Kuwait to relieve them. I asked many of the soldiers last night when there was the thought that Saddam Hussein and his sons may have been killed in that blockbuster bomb blast. And I asked them, I said, how would you feel if this turned out to be the case? Each soldier I talked to, save one, said, just relieved. We came here to get a job done. That would mean we've accomplished our job. 1 or 2 of the soldiers was particularly prescient. One said at the time, I won't believe it, and I don't know any of these Iraqi citizens will believe it until they come up with a lot more proof. I think that's a pretty general feeling around here. Aaron?
And as quickly as you can, do they feel the danger for them, the personal danger for them has passed?
They can feel that there is a certain the immediacy of the threat has gone. Having said that, every one of these soldiers knows that the moment they let their guard down, they become extremely vulnerable. And as their commanding officer said, there's still more fighting ahead. What he said was, we're not going to be safe and really safe until we're back in Fort Stewart, Georgia. Aaron?
Well, thank you, Walt Rogers, in or outside of Baghdad tonight. We'll take a break. Our coverage continues in just a moment.
Most of those who are calling themselves Fedayeen do not appear to be Iraqi, according to the intelligence officers I spoke with earlier today. The intelligence officers say that most of those that they are finding dead and capturing wearing the black dress of the Fedayeen appear to be Jordanian, Egyptian, Saudi, Yemeni, and anything but Iraqi. And recently there's word, though unconfirmed, of uprisings against not only the Ba'ath Party, but against the Fedayeen themselves. So some very good developments. I hope to be back in Baghdad here later this morning, here in Baghdad time, and give you further updates on those stories and others as well. Greta?
Are they getting people surrendering to you, Ali? I mean, does it look like it's just simply given up on this path to Baghdad?
Well, in fact, the Fedayeen continue to fight, and there is obviously some very stiff resistance and ambushes and attempted probes at our positions from these folks, who are thought to number somewhere between 5,000 and 15,000 total. And they nearly all appear to be foreigners from other countries besides Iraq. And as I say, the reports that we're getting are that, and we've seen this, we've seen local Iraqis, some of whom may well have been soldiers, turning in the Fedayeen, reporting on Fedayeen having stolen ambulances and loading the ambulances with explosives. Yesterday morning, we had a Fedayeen group drive up to a Marine patrol with an ambulance, lights on, flashing, and when they failed to stop, the Marines opened fire, and the driver of the ambulance then detonated the explosives, killing he and his colleague. Both of them appear to have been Jordanian. And as I say, the Iraqis themselves now appear to be taking up arms, when they can find them, against the Fedayeen as well as the Ba'ath Party officials. There has been some retribution. There could be no other way of putting it, Greta. I think that's one of the reasons, and this is my opinion, one of the reasons why the provisional government has decided to, if you will, go slow on trying to take over. They don't want to be blamed for what is undoubtedly going to be a Mussolini-style retribution.
Ali, do you get the sense that this is simply guerrilla warfare or freelancers, and that there's no organized military that is opposing the coalition where you are?
it does not appear to anybody I've talked to, and it certainly doesn't appear to me to be an organized resistance. What you're now seeing are groups of these Fedayeen on their own initiative, and basically, yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
There's no organized leader of this group. It's not like somebody like Osama bin Laden is pulling the strings. These are groups that are basically sent here to commit terrorism, and that's what they're going to do.
And indeed, they are doing it, but I guess they're running into our coalition troops. Ali, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, be very safe out there, Ali. We're going to be right back with Bill Gertz.
Saddam Hussein controlled Iraq through fear, torture and execution, and it happened here to tens of thousands of Iraqis that Saddam's secret police deemed dangerous. This man cowered for months, crammed with 300 others into a huge cell. Hamid Fatil may look like he's acting, but he was tortured here along with his two brothers who were executed. This man was here too, with his brother.
They sentenced him to death. Yeah, and they sent him to Baghdad, and he was hanged there. Hanged.
There is a prisoner under the name of Ahmed Saeed.
They kept records of prisoners, these and their fingerprints, all that's left of them, apart from the photographs they took of exactly what they'd done. If there is an evil center to Saddam Hussein's regime, then it is surely here and in other places of torture. And there's plenty here that we simply cannot show you. In this block, it was men over here, hundreds of them, and women and children here. To call all this a chamber of horrors is a cliche, and this place is beyond cliche. The hundreds or thousands who died here, who were given no trial, no voice, cry out. On the ground, I found a book called The Psychology of Interrogation, as if the men who worked here for Saddam needed a handbook. I was glad of the fresh air and glad to leave, glad I could. No one knows yet whether the new Iraq will be the kind of place where these children can grow up free of the fear, the horror of torture. Bill Neely, ITV News, Basra.
Well, we put a lot out there in the first 48 minutes tonight. We'll start with that report after a break, and we'll be joined again by General Wes Clark.
My business was moving in a new direction. My supply chain was...
Intelligence from multiple sources that not only Saddam, but one or more of his sons was in this building at a meeting with also some security and intelligence personnel, and they bombed it.
What do you mean by good intelligence? Are these three, these likely to be special operations, three people that we have sort of befriended who are Iraqis? I mean, who are these people?
Good intelligence means more than one source, more than one type of collection system. In the U.S., that usually means you have some type of an electronic collection effort. Additionally, you bolster that, you back it up with
But that's what they say by multiple sources. They're trying to do it both ways. They say good sources meaning multiple, and multiple sources to mean multiple.
Yeah, and they can balance out each other. If you have a human source seeing somebody go into the building, knowing they are in the building, knowing no one comes out of the building, you have a good sense that this is where you want to put your targeting information. Now, problem again, as has been discussed earlier, is do they have underground facilities, escape passages? That's something that needs to be determined.
But of course, that won't do you much good unless you went into the restaurant and you went into that escape and then you kept going. I mean, of course, if you're sitting in the house and you get hit with a JDAM, it's too late.
Right. What the intelligence community wants right now is they want to get some of these special Republican guards defecting. They want to get the Special Security Organization, Mukhabarat people. They want them to come forward and tell them what are the underground passages, especially what is Saddam's security system. It's very elaborate, it's very redundant, very difficult to track somebody like that. Now, I can tell you there's a lot of optimism within the U.S. intelligence community that they did get Saddam and his son in this attack. That said, we saw the British report tonight that indicates that he may have gotten out before the attack. Now, that could be based on information indicating he still may be communicating with someone else.
Do you find it odd that he would go there in broad daylight? And apparently, I mean, at least what we're hearing now, and I realize it's sketchy, but he made such an obvious entrance.
It's difficult to know. Everything we've tried to gauge that Saddam will do has usually been wrong. You know, I don't have to remind the viewers that on March 19th, there was very solid intelligence that he was in that first bunker and that we sent 37 Tomahawks and a number of JDAMs on top of that building. So it's going to take a few days, but we'll know, I say, within the next 1 or 2 days whether or not. And that will really be from the reaction of the Iraqis.
Are we certain he was there on that March 19th when we did that?
Well, you know,
because how did he get out alive, basically? I mean, because that was a bruising set of bombs as well.
In the intelligence business, it's very hard to be almost certain, and that's the case here too. The thing we don't understand is every place he stays, he has to think. He thinks about his security, and that means: does he have an underground escape passage? Does he have a sealed and strengthened bunker? This is what they're looking at, and was that the case with this attack yesterday?
Yeah, you wonder, why would he even have stayed? Why not go to Tikrit, where he's got his boyhood home, where he's got a lot of protection? Why in the world would he have stayed in Baghdad even to this date? I mean, he must have known that the coalition was coming.
Clearly, I don't think he can get out. I think that we have the place surrounded. Well, no, they're hoping, their strategy was slow down the American advance, which they didn't do. The second strategy was to create Mogadishu-like urban environments for the U.S. forces. And I think that's still going to be the strategy in Baghdad. The Pentagon keeps telling us there's more and bitter fighting ahead, so we haven't seen the last of it.
I think his strategy should have been run if he wanted to save himself at this point, if he's still there. Anyway, all right, Bill, thank you very much. It's always nice to see you.
Children had been in prison because they had not joined the youth branch of the Ba'ath Party. Some had been in there for 5 years. I mean, do stories like that, Nat, make you feel very, very justified in not protesting this war? And doesn't that expose the blind spot by many of these anti-war protesters?
Well, that's it. I know many of them, and as you mentioned in the introduction, I marched with many of them back in the Vietnam War period. But how... It seems to me incredible that people don't realize, you know, I've been told, well, we should contain him. If you contained Hussein, this would go on and on and on. More of these kids would have been in prison. More people would have been killed. Then somebody said to me, a civil liberties lawyer, friend of mine, said, I'm very disappointed in what you wrote. There's another way. I said, what's the other way? He said, the rule of law. Oh, I said. Who's going to implement the rule of law? The United Nations Security Council, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, with such serial violators of human rights as Libya, China, Sudan, etc., Zimbabwe.
Libya running the Human Rights Commission. And of course, what did the UN do in Rwanda when 2 million were hatched up, cut up? What did they do in the Sudan when millions were killed and sold into slavery? It's unbelievable.
The Sudan genocide is still going on, despite the fact that George Bush signed the Sudan Rights Act, in which we indicted Sudan for genocide. But now the African nations, can you believe this, are behind the scenes trying to get Sudan elevated, even though they're on the Human Rights Commission, out of the sanctions. They want no sanctions on Sudan in solidarity because it's an African country. And yet some of the slaves that are taken in Sudan are then transferred to Libya.
Yeah, and the slaves who are, again, young children who were sold into slavery for $10, $15 and live just a horrendous life. And again, there seems to be a blind spot on the left. And it started, I mean, you have some of these same people who have been apologists for terrorist states. Is it pure ideology? If it's a socialist leftist regime, they're against it? Are they're against protesting?
But I also blame the media in all its forms. The Sudan story has been clear for many years. There was practically no reporting on it for a long time, and even now, when there's supposed to be peace negotiations. And just about 3 months ago, the soldiers from the National Islamic Front went into a black village in the south of Sudan.
Yeah.
They kidnapped some of the women, and two of the children were running away. A 6-year-old was shot. The 4-year-old was beheaded.
All right, Nat, I'm sorry, we got to go, and I want to get you back here to talk about the Sudan.
Sure.
But I want to leave right now, leave you and leave everybody else with my favorite image of the day. A few of our brave soldiers were getting a little tired, so they got some R&R after securing one of Saddam's ornate palaces. A couple of the men from the Army's 3rd Battalion, 7th Infantry Regiment, stretched out on some of the lavish furniture that was left behind. It looks like Baghdad's version of Club Med. Look at that picture, man. That picture's worth 1,000 words. Thanks for watching us. Now here's Sam Shane with our continuing coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Good night.
You see a countryside without phone lines. We saw a chance to invest in what became one of the world's leading wireless communications companies. A smart call for our shareholders.
Won the war, or we're about to win the war, we've got to win the peace. And winning the peace means helping to offset the burden that we're going to have in protecting the environment by which this new government will emerge. You can't underestimate the amount of multi-ethnic and political chicanery that is going to go on among the many opposition groups who are going to be vying for control. And if we have the Syrians and the Iranians and the Turks and the Arab League instigated by the French to undermine everything that we're trying to do, then we have to be mindful of the fact that we could, in effect, lose the peace. By transferring some of the humanitarian relief operations to the United Nations, we help legitimate what we're trying to accomplish.
And it's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. Ambassador, thank you very much. And a special thanks to our coalition troops in the battlefield and their families all over the world for making such a great sacrifice. Keep your TV locked on Fox News Channel for breaking news on the war. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night, but don't go away. We continue our live coverage of this war, and Shepard Smith, he's here and he's next.
You are looking live. Baghdad, new bombings and breaking news. Baghdad, a city where Saddam Hussein may have met his maker beneath mounds of rubble. Is the dictator dead, buried in his own building? Tonight, a major newspaper in the United Kingdom says yes, he survived. That report, plus the latest from the Pentagon, CENTCOM, and our own reporters in the region.
Saddam Hussein will be gone. It might have been yesterday. I don't know.
Iraq's Republican Guard still fighting and still following orders from someone. Intense battles tonight with bad news for the Iraqis. In the air, 100% supremacy. That's the claim from the Pentagon. But can we win these battles and lose the war for the Iraqi people? Team Fox coverage live from across the region on a special edition of Fox News right now. It's 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 11 o'clock in the East, 7 a.m. sunrise in Baghdad. From Fox News World Headquarters in New York, I'm Shepard Smith. Does this pile of rubble coming here contain the corpse of Saddam Hussein? And what is the new focus of the coalition campaign? Those two of the topics of discussion tonight with the headline in the Guardian newspaper tomorrow morning. Wednesday morning's edition in the United Kingdom, saying that United Kingdom intelligence sources say he lived. Details of that coming up, but first to the Pentagon and Fox News correspondent Brett Baer live with the late details. Hello, Brett.
Hey, Shep. Yeah, tonight Saddam Hussein's fate remains a mystery. U.S. officials tell Fox the intelligence was, quote, very solid, that Hussein and his two sons were in that building before it was struck by 4 satellite-guided bombs. But as you mentioned, there are now 2 British papers quoting British intelligence sources saying Hussein and his sons got away minutes before those bombs hit. On the U.S. side, while there is growing confidence the strike was effective in killing the top Iraqi leadership, there is no hard proof yet, and if there ever will be something definitive, it's not expected for at least a few days. U.S. officials tell Fox, quote, friendly eyes have already been on the ground at the bombing site, but there is nothing solid as far as information to report yet. Now, just 45 minutes after the initial intelligence about the leadership meeting in that building developed and then was reported, a B-1 bomber on another bombing mission in western Iraq was called in. It raced to the target, and 12 minutes after that call, 4 JDAMs were dropped. The B-1 crew knew this strike was a high priority.
We had asked, can we hit our original targets as well? And we were told, negative, we need you to go direct towards this target. Guys, this might be the big one.
Meantime, the fighting today in Baghdad was at times intense. Waves of Iraqi paramilitary forces and Special Republican Guard soldiers tried to attack a column of U.S. Army tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles. It didn't work. Commanders say at least 50 of the enemy fighters were killed. The rest apparently ran away. But enemy snipers on rooftops are still a problem tonight.
They've taken 8 casualties already today. And when I say firefight, I mean snipers galore, and RPGs fired in their direction as well. It's urban fighting, and I'm told that it's been very, very tenuous because these guys are basically hiding in amongst the civilians.
Now, Iraqi fighters have been spotted roaming the streets of Baghdad. Defense officials say some are using civilians as human shields, while most are dressed as civilians themselves. Pentagon officials say the Iraqi Republican Guard is essentially in disarray, but there is still some fight in the Special Republican Guard on the streets of Baghdad. Now, defense officials are also telling us the coalition now has air supremacy over all of Iraq. Here, you see a tank being taken out in the close air support mission over Baghdad with the help of a forward ground controller. U.S. soldiers continue to exploit regime buildings, palaces, and underground facilities in downtown Baghdad. And defense officials say if Saddam Hussein is still alive, he is definitely losing control of his capital city.
We are sitting in the center of the city with almost an armor brigade right now, which is extraordinary. So if you put it in that kind of context, I think the end game is the end of the regime, and that's much closer than people thought it was.
Now, defense officials confirm that U.S. Marines tonight now control the Rashid Airport on the southeast side of Baghdad. Troops there today found a huge weapons cache, 15 bunkers full of rifles, anti-aircraft artillery, missiles, rocket-propelled grenades, and other weapons. Commanders say it was enough ammunition there for at least 3,000 soldiers. And in a military prison at that airport, a more ominous find, defense officials say troops found blood-stained pieces of U.S. Army uniforms and some chem-bio protective suits. It's believed those uniforms belong to at least 2 of the American prisoners of war. The Marines attacked that prison compound at the Rashid Airport based on intelligence on the ground that American POWs were there. We are told tonight by senior defense officials that the hunt for all 7 American POWs continues throughout Baghdad. Shep?
Hey, Brett, I'm reading this article in The Guardian, tomorrow morning's edition of The Guardian. It's already morning over there, obviously. Quoting here, he was probably not in the building when it was bombed. A, quote, well-placed source said. The source added it was believed he had been in the building earlier. Are we hearing any of this sort of stuff on this side of the pond?
No. U.S. officials are saying to us that they believe he was in that building at the time. Now, it's parsing of words here. At the time, that means before the bombs hit. Whether he was in that building with his sons as those bombs hit, after that call was made, still unclear. And no U.S. official I've talked to, either in the intelligence community or in this building, has been willing to say that, yes, we definitively think that he is dead tonight. They say there's just no hard proof. However, they also point out that they're not hearing any traffic, any radio intercepts, anything on the ground from their sources about his status.
The number 2 story on the website for The Guardian is a picture of killing. Suzanne Goldenberg reports from Baghdad's Kendi Hospital, where the tide of casualties is unceasing. The details from the past 24 hours. What do we know about this paper, The Guardian?
Well, it's fairly well respected, I understand, and they have had a number of stories before, sometimes that are on the mark, sometimes they're a little bit off. However, I can tell you that there are at least 2 papers in Britain citing intelligence sources, British intelligence sources, The Independent and The Guardian, now saying that Saddam Hussein and his sons made it out alive.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out when we find out. You know, nothing we can do about that. This new airport they got, a military airport off to the east, not far off the river. It appears at least there's a highway that goes right from that airport into the city. Is this thing only psychologically important, or is it being listed as strategically important as well?
No, it's strategically important, definitely. Defense officials telling us they will eventually use that airport, like they will use now what's called Baghdad International Airport, to bring in supplies and help the troops there. The Marines are securing this facility. It's huge. It is a really big facility, a military base, essentially, that included this prison where that ominous find of those pieces of U.S. Army uniforms.
And this goes all the way to the presidential palace, as we can see eventually. That presidential palace still under coalition control?
We understand 2 presidential palaces in Baghdad are now being held by U.S. Army troops. Greg Kelly, of course, with the 3rd Infantry Division, the 2nd Brigade, still holding down the fort, if you will, at that one. They spent the night in that particular location, fought off a counterattack today, we're told, and they continue to hold that, and the toehold in Baghdad is getting bigger, we understand, by the hour.
So we have a couple of palaces. We have the parade route. We have a number of places as this hub and spoke thing begins. We say we have virtual control over the city with some battles to fight, yet the Pentagon insists this isn't the Battle of Baghdad. I don't get it.
Well, I don't know if they insisted that today. I think there was an inference from what was said at the podium here that this is the Battle of Baghdad, if you will, that troops are in there now to stay. They said they sleep where they want to sleep. They're in there for the long haul. They're not now just going in and coming out like we saw in these thunder runs at the beginning. Greg Kelly can tell you that they've essentially put their foot on the ground there, and they're not leaving, and they continue to go into different buildings, go through different buildings, and even those underground facilities that we've heard so much about.
At the same time, we continue to hear the question, how will this war end? In Afghanistan, there was really nobody left to surrender. It just sort of ended. Is that what we're expecting now out of this thing, that if there's no one around to surrender, it just ends and on we go?
Well, one senior defense official told me tonight, look to Basra. How the British troops down there in the south, the southern port city, the 2nd largest city in Iraq, how they have handled that situation. British troops are now inside Basra. They today set up a civilian in charge of the government there, a sheikh who is well known in that population. They propped him up as the head, the temporary head of the government down there. The British troops are controlling that city and continuing to take out some of these small pockets of resistance. They said on a bigger scale, that essentially is how Baghdad is going to go as U.S. troops continue to kind of squeeze in to the areas that they know the most enemy resistance is located.
All right, good stuff. Brett Baer, we'll get back to you as news breaks tonight. Good to see you. Greg Kelly, of course, with the Army's 3rd ID. He's at Saddam's palace in Baghdad right now. Do we own that thing now, Greg?
Oh yeah, Shepard. Troops are sleeping inside right now as I speak. We spent the night there. The night before last, we stayed outside last night. It got a little too hot in there. The situation in Baghdad is this. The bombs are still falling. The fighting continues in the city. But there's a sense here that the bulk of the fighting and the bulk of the intense fighting is now behind this unit. They've already really accomplished their mission. Now they're kind of waiting for the regime to crumble, and they're waiting for the Marines to show up on the east side of the city. It's hard to imagine right now how the Iraqi government can get anything accomplished. We went through the city just a few hours ago. There are military vehicles all over the city, particularly around prominent Iraqi landmarks and government institutions. An M1 tank and Bradley fighting vehicle parked right outside the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Justice, as well as this palace and another palace right down the block. Again, it's this presence that the 2nd Brigade combat team has here that they're hoping will ultimately kind of shock this regime, if there is one left, into crumbling. Now, more about these palaces. I told you we hold this one and one right up the road. Troops kind of using this as something of a staging point. At first, there was a lot of curiosity about what was inside, a lot of concern about booby traps and that kind of thing. Then there was some curiosity, what kind of intelligence could be learned from inside. And now they're actually scouting out for some sort of headquarters for a provisional Iraqi government. Sooner or later, somebody is going to have to run this country, and they may do it from probably not this location, but the other palace right up the road, which is a little bit more intact than this one right here. But for now, again, it seems like the bulk of the fighting is behind this unit. Yesterday, as Brett mentioned, there was a fierce firefight as Special Republican Guard troops and paramilitary forces made their way from the east side of the Tigris over here. The fighting was put down fairly decisively by U.S. forces. The 2nd Brigade combat team called in close air support. They also returned fire with their own tanks, and some 50 to 100 Iraqis were killed in that fighting. They're hoping that was probably the last major skirmish they're going to have to face as they wait for the Marines to arrive in the immediate outskirts, or I'm sorry, on the left side of the city. Shep?
Hey, Greg, have you heard a lot of bombing, a lot of noise there tonight, or what's it like in Baghdad tonight?
It's relatively quiet. And now there are the occasional bombs. We heard a JDAM late last night, but it's nothing like it was about 24 hours ago when there was a firefight virtually on all sides of this compound. Bombs and artillery and mortar fire were heard constantly for hours on end. Last night, we all kind of got a good night's sleep. There wasn't that much activity. Again, around midnight, some JDAMs. Occasionally, we'll hear some gunfire every hour or so. But the ops tempo here in Baghdad seems much reduced as far as enemy contact. And that's a good thing, unit commanders tell us. They feel like they've really accomplished their mission. Again, they're waiting for this thing to crumble.
I know guys sit around talking about this sort of thing. What's the sense there? Is the sense now that there's nobody organized left to fight and it'll just be pockets of resistance, or what is the word around there?
They're looking at pockets of resistance. They're going to have to continue with the pockets of resistance, and then the guessing game goes on about when this is going to end, and it's anybody's guess. We've heard as long ago as a day ago that it had a day left. Other guys think it's going to take 2 weeks, and really they're just kind of shots in the dark about when this thing is going to be wrapped up. But there's a sense that they've kind of done their job, their mission. They're here. They're continuing to deal with these pockets of resistance, but they're kind of waiting for the other foot to fall. Maybe some sort of prominent Iraqi general perhaps needs to get on TV and surrender. They're kind of waiting for that official word from something that this thing is about done. But for now, they are holding on, dealing with the pockets of resistance and dealing with it fairly effectively. And again, it's not as frequent as it was before.
Greg Kelly, live at Saddam's house. By the way, what's that like?
Saddam's house, well, there are two. This one inside is full of rubble. For one, the right side of the house was hit by a JDAM. The left side is fairly intact. And if you walk through it, if you take a real good look at the decor, it's kind of, I guess you would say, cheesy, Shep. Kind of right out of the 1970s, a lot of gold lacquer stuff and things like that. Think Saturday Night Fever, you know. The other one down the block is far more ornate and kind of palatial, a little bit more elegant, if you will. It's unclear to us whether this building was ever occupied. Most of the offices are empty. I mean, empty of anything. One desk, no papers, nothing like that. It's apparently fairly new, and it's unclear whether Saddam Hussein ever spent the night there.
Interesting. Hang on for just a minute. I want to bring in one of your colleagues, Rick Leventhal, who is now with the 1st Division, 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines, is joining us live on this, Wednesday morning in Baghdad. Rick, tell the story of why you're with a new bunch, and tell it straight up, my friend.
Urban foot patrol through the heart of Baghdad, through some city streets. I'm with this infantry battalion, the only reserve battalion on active duty here in Iraq. A few hundred guys on foot, carrying heavy weapons, walking through the streets. We've got some backup in Humvees and some light armored vehicles, mostly men on patrol.
Wah, 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 wah. I mean, the technology is amazing, isn't it? It's fascinating, but it reminds me so much of Charlie Brown and The Teacher a lot of times. Wah, wah, wah. I mean, I wonder what we paid for that. So here's the deal with Rick. Since he didn't tell you the real deal, I'll tell you the real deal. He was sitting with this group that was patrolling an airstrip. Very important job. It must be done. It wasn't quite enough excitement for Rick. So he got transferred to another bunch, and now he is on urban foot patrol. I hear his phone is back, and Rick, it sounds as if you're a little bit out of breath. What up?
We're on foot patrol with the Marine Infantry, the 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines. This is the only Marine Infantry Reservist battalion on active duty here in Iraq. We got a couple hundred guys out here on foot, heavily armed, carrying rocket launchers and machine guns and machines. We have some small vehicles as well, some LAVs and light armored vehicles and Humvees. Mostly, though, this is men on foot, Shepard, walking through the city streets, urban patrol, looking for resistance, trying to draw fire, and looking for arms caches, and looking for intelligence from locals about where fighters might be hiding. Another one of these units was out yesterday. They received 9 casualties in a similar type sweep. And we're walking the streets right now, Shepard. We've been out here for almost an hour already. There's been a lot of artillery fired over our heads from behind us by U.S. forces blowing up in front of us. We're seeing some evidence of where those artillery shells have struck. The streets are pretty torn up, and locals are pretty much staying inside and watching as these Marines walk by. We're walking the streets of Baghdad right now, Shepard.
Do they mind if you say what part of town you're in, Rick?
I can tell you we're east. We are east of the center of Baghdad.
The reason I asked was because of these reports from the neighborhood where the bombing happened last night, and I wondered if you were there, all the while thought you probably wouldn't be, because that's not a place that, I don't know, many Westerners end up.
I don't even know about the bombing. I know that when we got here last night, there were several large fires burning, and there was engagement between elements of this 223 and locals, soldiers. They've seen Ba'ath Party loyalists. They've seen the Fedayeen, Republican Guard, and they are getting contact out here. But right now, so far this morning, we have not been shot at.
Contact.
There was a lot of sniper fire last night. Sniper fire on the location we were staying, which was a Republican Guard helicopter airfield. They were taking a lot of sniper fire there last night and appeared to put that down. Again, we're walking the streets now, and so far we haven't been shot at, Shepard.
Anybody hit? Any fire returned? To have any other folks hit? What's the word?
I don't know about enemy casualties, but 9 Marines were medevaced last night. Only one was serious, I'm told. But so far today, as far as I know, there have been no incidents yet. But we just got started, and we got a lot of ground to cover.
How long you been in the city, Rick? I mean, I talk to this guy every night on the phone, and every night he's like, "I'm ready to get to Baghdad." When'd you get there? And initial impression?
We arrived last night, and
so what? Like 8 hours ago, something like that?
No, about 12 hours ago. It was a long journey, as you can imagine. Just going from one place to another here is tedious because of roadblocks and obstacles and locals and, you know, one bridge that was blown up, and we had to sort of navigate our way over that. And when we arrived, it was dusk, and there were fires burning and thick smoke in the air and a lot of palm trees, and it really looked like a movie. It really looked like a Vietnam War movie, and that's what Christian Galdabini kept saying, my photographer. Just a very bizarre and a bit unsettling because of all the fires and the gunshots up here. This is my first look at the city itself. There's a lot of trash on the streets, a lot of rubble from where there have been incidents, and I'm hearing now explosions that I believe are mortar artillery shells incoming from Marines, from Marine artillery positioned outside of our location here.
We're talking live with Rick Leventhal, with Leventhal as we call it here on the East Coast. And if you put that screen back up, that full screen back up, I'll be able to figure out who he's with, because I had it memorized before. Where's the Rick full screen that was just up there? There he is. 1st Division, 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines. How's that working out for you?
These are reservists. These are reservists. You know, they're happy to have us here. They're welcoming the coverage. These guys are police officers and you know, data processors, and I just met a guy, a major out here who works for General Mills, but they've been on active duty for the last 16 months. They were activated to help out the anniversary of 9/11. I'm sorry, shortly after 9/11, asked to help out, and have been on active duty for a long time, almost the entire 16 months. And now, as I mentioned, they're the only active duty Marines or reserves here, and they're good to go.
In at least one instance, a data processor leaves his computer and ends up in the middle of Saddam Hussein's Baghdad, I assume with an AK-47 on his shoulder, wandering the streets looking for hostility. What's their reaction to all of this?
Well, they're eager to get this thing over with and get home, and they don't anticipate being here for much longer. But you know, it's amazing to me. Like, we were sat in on their briefing last night. They talked about all the stuff they saw yesterday, the casualties they took, and the mission for today, and the idea of it, going out here looking for trouble, not kicking in doors, but going down the streets, trying to draw fire, trying to get the bad guys, if you will, to shoot at them. That's the mission, to get people to shoot at them so they can shoot back and kill them and get rid of the enemy.
I'm very interested in this whole idea of viewing war, Rick. One of our guests this afternoon, Captain David Christian, was talking about during the Civil War how folks would pull up their blankets and watch as the North fought the South. And now he gives me the sense that this is sort of what happens in the streets of Baghdad, with people looking out the windows and watching the Marines and the Army go by. Have you seen that? And what sort of looks do you see on these people's faces, just out of curiosity?
Time and time again, Shepard. I'm seeing that over and over again. Women, children, grown men standing in groups, looking out the window, standing in doorways, watching us go by, many of them smiling, most of them giving us thumbs up or waves. Some of them holding white flags, but all of them very curious. And yes, it's like a parade. They're standing there watching us go by as if there were a parade coming through town. We saw that in the farmland as well. You know, farmers and their families seeing Marines for the first time and greeting us very warmly. I should also tell you that on our way here last night, we saw widespread, and I mean widespread, evidence of looting. Just everyone and anyone on the street carrying anything they possibly could that they've been stealing from Republican Guard headquarters, military bases. They were even breaking into like warehouses and stores and stealing generators and heavy trucks and farm machinery, driving it down the road. I saw 4 guys pushing an 18-wheeler, the cab of an 18-wheeler, because I guess they didn't run out of gas.
Wow, you know, this description, and Brett Baer's with us in Washington. Brett, this is almost as if, though I know the analogy has flaws, but this is almost as if a foreign country has come in, taken the Capitol and taken the White House and is now walking down North Capitol Street or K Street or in your neighborhood with guns over their shoulders, and you're watching out the window.
Yeah, it is amazing. And Rick, I wanted to ask you a couple of things. One is, you know, we heard from you earlier, well, I guess it was yesterday, about snipers, enemy snipers actively kind of approaching and taking out some of those U.S. troops. Any more of that, or are you guys walking down in like 2 columns in the street and not really seeing any fire over the past few hours?
There was a lot of sniper fire last night. In fact, there were Marine snipers on the roof of the building we were sleeping in, and they were getting shot at. The snipers were being sniped. I think one of them was actually hit. That's a major problem out here. They've been dealing with a lot of Republican Guard and Ba'ath Party loyalists and Fedayeen and others. And what the commanding officer told me was that these guys, many of the soldiers, were simply taking off their uniforms but not dropping down their guns. And they might be some of the people waving during the daytime, but they are definitely people shooting at night. And they are taking cover in private homes and apartments, using civilians as shields, and they are shooting at the Marines. And these are the people that the Marines are looking for. If they see someone without a gun, they leave them alone. But if they see someone with a gun, they're obviously a target.
Brett, you said you had a couple of questions.
Well, oh yeah, sure. Well, that was one. The other one is, can you just describe what you're doing down the street? I mean, are there 25 of you walking in 2 columns in the middle of the street? This is kind of the urban scenario I thought a lot of people wanted to avoid.
Yeah. Well, you're right. We started out with 2 columns, one on each side of the street, roughly 10 feet off the sidewalk or off the walls of the buildings nearby, moving down the street. But there are a couple of companies out here, and they have spread out now. We've fanned out across this area of the city, and so in some cases they're taking up defensive positions on corners, and I don't know, holding a position while others continue to move forward. Right now we have stopped on a corner. A vehicle just drove up, a private vehicle, and the Marines told him to stop and turn around. They're sending him away. They were moving in 2 columns, but now it looks like we're moving again. It's a very it seems to be a very well organized patrol. There are people with radios.
His thing is breaking up for just a moment, but he'll be back in just a second. And Brett, let's think about what's been said here tonight and try to get some clarity on this without the spin that sometimes come not from one side but from both sides. Here's what we have. We have a reporter named Greg Kelly who's at Saddam's palace, and it's been taken over by the coalition. We have a reporter named Rick Leventhal who is walking the streets of Baghdad, whose people are telling the locals when they can go where and at what time. Yet we are saying that when all is said and done, we don't yet have control of this city. I'm guessing that if I walked out the front door of 1211 6th Avenue tonight and some guy from some other country told me where I can go and where I couldn't, and looked on TV and saw the White House was controlled by someone from another country, I'd pretty much feel like maybe we weren't in control anymore.
Yeah, you're right. And it's amazing to hear this because, you know, I don't know specifically where Rick is, and if I did, I wouldn't say it, but he is in the city of Baghdad, and they are walking on patrols in the city. And obviously there aren't that many enemy snipers at this particular point where he's walking, but I can tell you there are parts of this city that senior defense officials tell us are still heavily patrolled and controlled by Special Republican Guard units that are causing problems. That said, you're right. There are 2 major locations. As the Marines push in from the east, the Army has been pushing in from the south and west. Also, we understand some Army troops with the 5th Corps are now pushing in from the north into the city and not leaving. They're staying. So this information minister of Iraq, when he says that things are still going Iraq's way, he's not going to be able to say that too much longer.
Hey, you know, I'm getting mails from people who are, I don't know, who want us to be right, and I don't blame them. I said AK-47. Of course, it's M16s. Good grief. Anyway, Greg Kelly is locked inside of palace grounds now while Rick is roaming the streets, and I just wonder if Greg maybe wanted to ask Rick any questions.
Well, a couple of things for Rick. Number one, be careful, buddy. And I tell you what, we came into Baghdad in an armored vehicle. We had a tank in front of us, a Bradley behind us. That's the preferred way to come into Baghdad. You're on foot. I know it's dicey over there. A couple of things. We've had some sniper fire over here as well, particularly for some high ground. If you can pass this on to Rick when he comes back. A lot of those Special Republican Guard forces, a lot of those paramilitary forces that we were engaged with yesterday came over from the east side of Baghdad, where Rick is right now. That's more or less believed to be a stronghold. A lot of them may have fled there. A lot of them were hitting us from the other side of the river behind our palace for much of yesterday morning and the day before. A lot of people fighting, and the bulk of their mission is now behind them.
All right, I'm going to get right back to you in just a second. I want to let you know, we were talking earlier about the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian and the Independent, you know, both respected newspapers in the UK, both decidedly anti-war, both decidedly negative in their coverage, yet the Guardian, respected for its journalism, is saying now that well-placed sources say we didn't get him. To that end, I want to bring in Mike Battles, who's a former CIA operations officer who joins us from Boston. Is it your sense, Mike, that the CIA had enough here to make this happen in time, or is it more likely that he's gone?
Well, it certainly seems to me that from the people I've talked to and the reports I've seen that we know he was there. When we launched the airstrike, when we diverted the aircraft from their normal targets onto that location, we had confirmed intelligence reports that he was there. There's always a possibility he got out, but the word I'm hearing is that there's no evidence that he got out, that the time between the time the aircraft was rerouted and the time on target was so slim that the likelihood of him getting out was minuscule.
It's probably worthless for us to speculate. We'll just wait and see what happens. But I want to show you something that our producers found. Now, we've been getting mail about this just a little bit, but Mike, watch with me. Look at this tape. See the man in the middle of this tape? There you go. Production is on the ball. Now, look at this man right here. See that man?
Yeah.
Are those the same two men? Now, before you answer, watch another version of the same guy on the right. Now, roll that second tape. Right there. Striped shirt. Is that the same man? That's a Saddam Hussein bodyguard. Same guy as the one before, if we can go back to that. And we believe the same guy on the left-hand side of the screen. See him? See the hairline? See the facial? See all of that? The people on the left-hand side of the screen are the people who were outside the building after it blew up and up and up. The guy on the right side of the screen is walking with Saddam Hussein in that exact same neighborhood, said to have been a couple of days before, and in the picture on the right, he is Saddam Hussein's bodyguard. Bodyguard in that video. Yet on the left, he stands alone outside a blown-up building. What do I take from that? I don't take anything. I report, you decide. It's the same guy on the left as on the right. On the right, he's Saddam Hussein's bodyguard. On the left, he's standing looking at a broken-up building. What do you think of that, Mike?
There's not really a conclusion we can draw from it, but it certainly appears to be the same guy. You know, my initial thoughts are that if I were one of Saddam's bodyguard and I knew he was in that building when that big bomb landed on it, I'd be as far away from there as humanly possible.
And what if you're one of Saddam Hussein's bodyguards? Aren't you with Saddam Hussein?
You never know. You never know who might be doing surveillance outside of the building. You know, they may have cordoned the 2 square blocks of the city around where he was at any particular time at place. It depends on the size of his personal protection detail. There's no way to say whether he was, you know, in the building when Saddam was supposed to be there or not. He could have been, for all we know, not working at that time, but just he covered him when he was in that local area. It's really hard to speculate, but it surprises me that he'd be lingering in and around the aftermath if he believed that Saddam was in there.
Seems a little hard to believe to me, too. Anyway, that's the bit of rubble there. We've seen that guy smoking a million times now. I mean, this video is getting a little old, but that's you know, that's what's happening here, and you have to wonder if this hasn't happened. And the reason I ask is this: if the whole world is talking about this huge explosion that the Allies carried off in their awesome intelligence and their great information, and you weren't in there in the first place, if what really happened was you were trying to see how much we were listening and you set us up, wouldn't you then go, ha, 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 I'm alive, go Iraqi people, go Fedayeen, get them, jihad, jihad. We haven't heard from the guy.
Not necessarily. As a matter of fact, it's quite possible to be the opposite. It would be the fact that they're using this time to bargain for their safe passage out of the country. For all we know, they could be using weapons of mass destruction as currency to get either out towards Syria or towards Iran, and they're using the cloak of the speculation that Saddam may be dead in order to get outside the inner circle of Baghdad.
Very interesting. All right. Well, I guess in the next couple of days we're going to figure out something, right? Because you figure there's not that much left to take, and they're clearly walking around taking it. Rick Leventhal's walking around right now with a bunch of guys with M16s around their shoulders. They're trying to take something. I guess over the next couple of days we'll take it and they'll quit, or we'll take it and it won't matter what they do. I mean, what is another outcome?
Could be anything. I think that we're more than likely going to see a situation whereby someone rises to prominence and says that they are now, in the name of the Iraqi people, taking control of the government. It'll be someone that has some government function, but is far enough removed from Saddam Hussein and his atrocities that they'll have some form of legitimacy. They'll speak to the Iraqi people, ask them to welcome the coalition forces, and it'll be a kind of a slow abdication to some form of civil society that the Americans and the Brits put together over the next 2 weeks.
Chris Sinez writes from Houston, Texas. God bless him. I mean, he means no harm. If that Saddam's bodyguard was an asset of the CIA's, you just blew his cover. We wouldn't be having that tape. Chris, it ain't all that now, buddy. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. That guy on the left, that guy on the right, they're both around Saddam. Saddam's alive on the right-hand side of the screen. What's Saddam on the left-hand side of your screen? Have you heard all this talk here, Rick Leventhal? Have you know this is something the whole free world's talking about? Did we get him? Did we get him?
I heard that there was some bombing of a location, and they thought maybe they got Saddam and one of his sons. That's the last I heard.
Yeah, a couple of them. That's the question.
Well, that'd be good news, I guess.
I suppose. So as you walk around now, how quickly are you guys walking? And you said a little while ago what they're basically doing is trying to get somebody to come out and shoot at them. And I know what you meant by that is they want to find out who the bad guys are, and it's the bad guys who would do the shooting. How many of those have you run across?
Exactly.
Lots or a few?
None yet. None yet this morning, and we have stopped walking for the moment. We've taken up positions along a wall. Marines are...
They've taken up a position along the wall, and he's breaking up a little bit. And I wonder if there's a big difference between today, after everybody seems to think at least...
I'm here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Can you... Yeah, well, they asked me to... Okay, good.
I know how it works, my friend.
Someone asked me to...
You know, sometimes we have these conversations and kind of pick at each other, and these people write, and they're like, you're so rude to him. You disrespect him.
Well, why should you be any different on the air than you are in person, Shepard?
All right, Rick. Now it's all over but the killing. Rick and I are best friends, people. Settle down. Something happens to him, they're going to have to go through me. All right, now I'm serious about this whole resistance. I'm serious about this whole resistance thing yesterday, and I asked the question because of this, Rick. Yesterday afternoon here in the United States, the belief was the guy was alive. Tonight at this time in the United States, the belief was we certainly tried to get him and might have gotten him, and I just wondered if that changed any attitudes there and if the regular folks there had any idea that we were trying to get him, you know?
Well, I think that, you know, if in fact he is dead, then that will obviously hasten the end of this thing, but there are a lot of loyalists and a lot of Republican Guard who either don't know or won't care, and they will still take opportunities to take out Marines if they can. They still have their weapons, and they're still shooting at them. There was a large collection of RPGs, rocket-propelled grenade launchers, and AK-47s and other rifles and weapons that were just sitting in a pile in front of the area where we slept last night that have been collected by these guys. They continue to find huge caches of weapons as they go through town, and they continue to find resistance from snipers and others who may not know or may not even care that Saddam Hussein is dead or alive. You know, they have an enemy, and the enemy is the U.S., and they're still fighting out here. Right now, we're not receiving any fire, but these guys are, in fact, looking for it. And one other note, right where we have stopped, there are some piles of trash in the street, and some of those piles are Army uniforms and helmets. This is more evidence of what the colonel was telling me this morning, that they're just taking off their uniforms and dropping them in the street, but they're hanging onto their weapons and continuing to use them, Shepard.
Rick, hang on. I want to go to Mike Battles, former CIA operations officer, is with us once again from Boston. Mike, they have an enemy. The enemy is America, and they're there to shoot America. You know, we might win this war. How long is it going to take to change that attitude, and is this war the thing that might do it?
I think it is. The Iraqi people have a long history of a civil society. You've got to understand the level of information deprivation that has permeated that society since Saddam was there, and many of the people truly believe his rhetoric because there was no alternative. I think that you're going to see the diminishing resistance over the next couple of days as word starts to spread the old-fashioned way from mouth to mouth that, you know, the Americans are coming, the Brits are here, they're distributing food, they're distributing water, there doesn't seem to be any major repercussions against the citizenship, and as that starts to trickle through, they don't have the prevalence of the media outlets that we do here. Then you're going to see a warming up, and then you're going to see what Rick described earlier, kind of the free-for-all. Who's going to fill the power vacuum? You're going to see increased looting. You're going to see people trying to jockey for positions within the new government. You're going to start seeing people trying to take the possessions and claim familial heritage to things that have been occupied by the states over the last decade or 20 years. And there are going to be those civil problems, but the resistance to the Allied forces is going to diminish by the day.
Hey, Rick, you said you're seeing some of the signs of looting around there. We've noticed that a lot of furniture in the palaces seems to be missing. I wonder if that process is already beginning.
Yeah, it is, and it has been going on full steam. In fact, when the Marines arrived at the Republican Guard headquarters that they took over yesterday, it was in the process of being looted, and they had to chase the people out of there. But they sympathized. They said, you know, listen, these guys have been held down for so long, and they're just trying to get something back. We've seen just a lot of evidence of that. But right now, I have to tell you, the streets of Baghdad are extremely quiet. There is virtually no traffic on the roads. I hear roosters crowing. I see some people in their doorways and on their balconies. But it is very quiet here. There are Marines in position up and down this street, but very little movement here. I hear fighter jets flying overhead. We did have artillery fire from coalition forces at targets in front of us. You could actually hear the scream of the rocket as it passed overhead. But right now, it's just very, very quiet. One of the other things, Shepard, that was very interesting that these guys found yesterday when they were doing a similar urban patrol, they found a PLO camp, a training camp, a terrorist training camp. Yes, they had pictures of Abu Abbas in there and Saddam Hussein as well. They found documents relating to chemicals and explosives. They found NBC gear. There was a full obstacle course that they said rivaled what was at Camp Pendleton. There was a shooting range, and all this was inside berms, and they said it was clear that this was a PLO training camp.
Well, that'll make me shut up for a minute. I mean, we're hearing these stories from all over the place. Our buddy Rick Kerry Sanders, who, as you know, works for NBC and is a reporter who I admire, and I consider him to be a friend, though we've never worked together and hung out that much. He's a great guy. He reported from the front lines of the battlefield just last week that Saddam Hussein had sent his troops out on the battlefield with 6-year-old girls in their arms, that the coalition didn't know they were in their arms. They fired away as they would at any other combatants, and those 6-year-old girls died, innocent little girls. And I wonder, along the same lines as they were abused by Saddam Hussein, whether these people who are in the streets there and can't leave their streets right now and can't get food and all the rest, whether they're suffering the same abuse. My question is, how are they getting food into these houses? Where are they getting it? Are there stores open?
It's a very good question. I don't see any stores open.
I guess
we've passed some locals, and they have asked for food. You know, we have some humanitarian rations that the Marines pass out when they can, but they frequently ask for food. And where they're getting it now, I don't know. But I mean, this city is very quiet and very still, and the part of town we're in is not open for business.
Rick, you sound anxious. I mean, your tone, and maybe it's the video phone, the satellite phone, but you sound, I mean, who wouldn't be anxious walking around in a hostile country? What's it like?
Well, I can't help but feel like a bit of a target. You know, we're not carrying weapons. We're surrounded by people who are, but we're out here on the street. and in a position where, you know, again, I have a phone to my head, and you know, there are people out here who want to shoot and kill Americans and shoot and kill Marines. That's why they came out here today. So it's a little unsettling, yeah. This is no walk in the park, although we may go to a park. We're going there to look for people who might shoot at us. So, yeah, I'm a little unsettled, but I do want to say that we made.
You broke up, Rick, Ed. I do want to say we moved something. What was that again?
Well, I want to say we made the move from the 3rd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion because we did want to get to the heart of Baghdad and see the end of this story up close. But I just want to say to the family and friends of the 3rd LER who have been so supportive and so appreciative of our coverage of those guys that, you know, they were excellent hosts. They were a terrific bunch of guys. They're still working hard back on the other side of Baghdad's perimeter. And, you know, I had nothing but respect for them. And we left with their blessing. They understood that we wanted to pursue this story. And Lieutenant Colonel Stacy Clarity and the rest of them were like, go, man, go. And they made every effort they could to help us get to where we are right now. So I just want to thank them and let them know that we haven't forgotten the 3rd LER, but we are now with the 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines. These are reserve infantry Marines, and they are on the streets of Baghdad looking for trouble, Shepard.
You're a good man, Rick Leventhal. Not news to me. I sure do appreciate it. If you can hang on, hang on. And if there's anyone around there who you're walking around with who'd like to talk to us on the phone, and the couple people who are watching, that'd be killer, and we'll get back to you for that in just a minute. I got to hit a commercial break, but you heard the mention of this PLO camp, as it was described. Palestine Liberation Organization camp, something with a training course similar to one at Camp Pendleton, said our own guys over there. What to make of that? We'll speak to our CIA expert about that in a minute, plus coalition forces pounding Saddam's regime. But Iraqi death squads are still operating and taking on coalition troops. Death squads, Rick. Watch out for the death squads. Good grief. Our Fox military expert with a look at what may be coming next. And the question mark of the war, dead or alive, hit or miss. We don't know. The mystery goes on. But how will they know, they being the folks in charge of all this, figure it out? You know how they'll know? They'll figure it out because of lessons they learned in the rubble of 9/11. The details on that straight away.